Listen,
thing.
we wanted to come on because, you remember the morning show? We did a morning show. Like, okay.
We did. Yeah, it was like Howard Stern
show.
meets.
Right. It was good.
Yeah, it was very good.
All right. We did it every morning at 6:30 in the morning. And we had our diehard friends join us at 6:30 in the morning.
Some of them from the West Coast even.
Unbelievable. And we did that for how many months did we do that?
6 or 7 at least.
6 or 7 months. That was a very long time. And then we went rogue. Why did we stop doing that? I think because of me. I was probably like, I don't want to get up and get makeup on. And what am I doing? No, I just think that life got in the way, right?
Stuff happens. And then we're thinking, let's try a different time.
Yes. And we could not figure that out.
Yeah. So we're trying this time. Wednesdays at 4:30.
Yeah.
Wednesdays at 4:30.
Wednesdays.
So,
and we're going live on all of our platforms. And I just want to give a big shout out to my YouTube people because I love you and you watch these videos religiously on YouTube. You guys are unbelievable. Your messages that you send me. Oh my God. It's so great. So I'm glad to be connecting this way. So we just want to take a couple of minutes to come on today and just get reacquainted with you guys and say hello and what we like to talk about and, what you want to talk about. Basically, I'm brain dead. I just want to be real. I want to tell you the truth about my brain wave activity. It involved kindergarten all day today for a total of 5 solid hours, sitting in front of the screen. And I'm going to tell you something about Zoom school. All right. I don't need to tell you because can you tell me if you are a parent and you are doing Zoom school, the school business? Listen.
Not quite school, is it?
Listen. This is a kindergarten class. So half the kids don't know how to mute. We've got kids up in the thing screaming and yelling and parents.
And their parents, you can hear their parents
doing their business outside. Kids, right?
Yeah, right?
The parents are like going bananas, calling people, arguing. I gotta hear. I'm just like, oh my God. And of course you guys probably know me. I'm in the chat. I'm up in the chat box. All right. Like, hey, can we get it situated here? Can you guys find the mute button? Shh. Let me tell you where it is.
It's old lady McGurk. She's telling us how to.
I know. He always makes fun of me like old lady McGurk, like I'm a kraken. I come out of the cave and I'm like, yeah. But listen, I get really frustrated. And our kid is such a trooper. She's sitting through all of these classes. Nobody's meant to be. 5-year-olds aren't meant to sit in front of a screen for 5 hours at a time.
Well, and yet she seems to be able to do it with
their iPad.
Their iPad.
We don't let her do it for 5 hours at a time. Can you fix this so I can see what's happening and we can get out of here?
Yeah, I'm just.
Okay. So anyway, I can only handle so much of that where my brain starts to. I'm trying to do work. How are you guys doing it? I'm trying to do work as we're doing the kindergarten and I'm sitting there.
Well, it's hard too. Cause then Ellie will be like, hey, what are you doing? And like, also that doesn't help because she gets distracted and wants to participate.
Also a kindergartner cannot do schoolwork on their own. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Well, the other thing is no offense to anybody, but like the lessons are a little pedestrian even to her, so she's like,
it's so pedestrian. What are we doing, counting to 3? Come on.
Yeah, when they're doing the letters, she's like okay.
No, she's really bored.
A?
She said to me, she goes, this is baby stuff. She doesn't want to even answer the questions because she does this baby stuff. But I guess that's my fault because I didn't understand what she was supposed to be doing. So I'm like, we're reading. We're reading
War and Peace.
Here. Okay, we're reading War and Peace over here and making doing algebra, and then she's going 3 cubes. I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. And I was like this slobbering. There's like slobber coming out of her mouth. She's like, and I'm going, this is disaster. Anyway, we love you, Miss. You know who you are.
Yeah. And
you're doing a bang up job, a fantastic job. But man, so listen, the F word. We could say, right, when we're thinking about that. But I was thinking the other day, here's the truth. I know everybody says this, but it's really everybody says, oh, it's going to fly. It's another F word. It's going to fly by, right? Just enjoy it while it lasts. This is a short season. And before you know it, they grow up. And it's really easy to say that in hindsight when they're 20 and you're past it, or they're 30 and you're past it. And like, it flew by, but it feels long when you're in it.
Well, and it feels particularly long now because everything feels longer now.
But the truth is it will fly by. So I'm trying to do another F word, which is family, and say to myself, you know what? This is going to pass. They are going to go back into school and have this whole thing change. And so,
yeah, we got to fill out and say the questionnaire. Are you going back to school or are you doing virtual? We're like, back after school. Yes. Can we say that out loud?
No,
fun.
I really am though. I think it's part of having kids older in life. I think because I was so old when I had Elevie that I'm thinking, you know what? I do savor the time a little bit more. I do slow down and sit there and look. We're counting cubes, and I do have that perspective, and it's good I do because otherwise I am the type of person to go crazy listening to that all day long. It's a little much, right? But it is going to fly by. And so I'm trying to relish it. I'm trying to just be in the moment. But I have to tell you, it's like scrolling on if you have dumb people in your feed and you're looking at it for so long, you have to go, read a book or enroll in a class.
Yeah, usually when you go to school, you're supposed to feel smarter. But after that, we feel dumber. Like,
So we are enjoying the moment as best we can, having that perspective. And how are you doing? Are you doing the same thing? Man, it's definitely a lot. It's a lot. And we just need to be respectful of everybody. Because you know what? Some parents are going to want their kids to go back to school. Some parents have committed and already decided to do this all year long. And how dare anybody say to anybody else, oh, you should be doing this with your kid, or here's what we think you should do. Well, piss off. I mean, you don't get to have an opinion. I think that it's hard enough already with everybody trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do.
Yeah. And that is, I think, speaks to the other F word. Fear. People are sharing what they think others should do based on their own fear, and they're projecting their own fear. And to get like a little serious for a minute, not that I ever am, it feels like we're sadly kind of indoctrinating a fear-mindedness, though, which is a little unfortunate. I heard Ellie yesterday, like, excited to come back, as she was saying, okay, we're going to be coming back. And she was like, oh, and I get to hug you, and I get to hug. And they're like, no, well, yeah. Oh, she's like, oh, I guess we just have to do air hugs. And it just broke my heart as I'm sitting there going, man, like, to eliminate the ability to A, have that kind of contact, and then B, to instill the reason why is because touching somebody might get you sick. Now, obviously, we need to be smart about things, but like, I don't know. I've noticed that, I don't know. Have you noticed that Ellie's like feeling a little more fearful than usual, that there's a hyper awareness?
I actually don't think so. And this is going to be a little confrontational. So outside of my nature. I think that
she's really confrontational.
I think it's your filter that sees that because you're so sensitive to being controlled at all. And actually that conversation with Ellie, she was like, okay, air hugs. She was kind of okay.
I know.
You were sad. Right? But
she's at an age where she doesn't know necessarily to what she's right.
That she's supposed to be.
But she does know to be fearful. She's been more fearful, concerned about things,
Ellie
worried about.
Fears, what are your kids? Ellie is afraid of me dying, which is legitimate because I'm old as hell. All right? What? That's legitimate.
Well, she's afraid of a bear to come in from the yard.
She used to ask me, how old am I going to be when you die? How old am I going to be when you die? And then she would say, are you going to be like a really old lady when you die? Like, what are you going to be like? And I keep telling her, I'm like, you're really not going to die. I'm just going to come back around as a blue butterfly and you're going to see me and we're energy. I try to explain to her, but yeah, she's fearful of that. She has a natural kind of fear in her about, she didn't want me to ride my bike yesterday because she thought a car was going to run me over.
But my only point is I wonder if not just Ellie, but in general, there is more of that mindset that's freaking people out unnecessarily. So then they go, I mean, like as an example, I shared the one time we were playing racquetball outside when this whole thing first started. Racquetball outside. And the woman came running over telling us not to do it and basically like, you're going to give me COVID. You're going to give me COVID. And to think that that's what people are thinking, that like, you know, even just, you know, 20 feet away or more, we were, you know, like she could have avoided us completely. And to think that someone being outside and not even near someone is creating that level of angst, it's, you know, it's no wonder people are going, oh, right. And then what happens when we're acting out of fear, you know, we sadly don't make the best decisions.
Well, and you know, the thing is about fear is that we're never really even afraid of what we think we're afraid of, right? We're not really afraid of COVID. What are we really afraid of? What's the fear underneath the fear?
I don't know. I don't have it.
Right? It's not like we're not afraid to hug people. We're not afraid we're afraid of losing connection. We're afraid, like we play that tape all the way down the road and our fear goes, oh my gosh, if we're not allowed to hold people or touch people, then we create a bunch of robots of people who don't know how to be connected to each other. And if they can't sit apart, if they have to sit apart at school and they can't play, they're not going to know how to interact socially. And we start telling the story and future pacing. And really at the end of the day, all fear kind of boils down to that, oh my God, we're not going to know how to love each other. We're not going to know how to be connected. We're not going to know how to be together. And we have to find ways continually to be encouraging connection in a disconnected position, right? So when we say, oh, we can't hug you. Oh, but you know what she said? She said, Ellie said, and when I do something wrong, when somebody does something, we say sorry. She said this at school the other day. We can't give a hug and say sorry. We have to look at each other and look in your eyes. And look in your eyes and say sorry. And I was like, yeah, she's finding ways to connect, even as a 5-year-old.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, she always had,
but we need to do that. We need to do that too, and not get,
except that if you're even allowed to, because how do we look in your eyes here on Zoom or some other technology?
You know what? I make videos for a living. I always feel like I'm looking in people's eyes. I imagine it.
I know.
No, I mean, I really do.
So do
totally. I really feel it right now.
Yeah.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it? I definitely
Blue
feel
steel.
That. Right. I can't go left.
So I guess ultimately, though, there's hopefully gifts in all of this.
Yeah.
And also, though, how do we not get sucked into that idea of all the things to be afraid of? Because the truth is that everywhere we look, it doesn't matter now. It seems like every time you turn on anything, there's some person, some ad, some post of something to be afraid of. It's like Debbie Downer all the time, practically.
I feel really lucky because I need to be more in tune with this problem. You know, guys, I've been obsessed with personality tests my entire life. Like I came out of the womb, like taking a psychology test. I mean, I literally, it fascinates me, right? So I've done the Myers-Briggs. What are you? If you've done that, please tell me. It's a little unreliable because it changes, but I'm an INTP or ENT, or sometimes on the fence with an ENTP, right there on the fence. And, but I got into the Enneagram recently, which is, by the way, the most accurate of everything I've ever done. And it just confirms what you already know about yourself. So anyway, one of the things that I have, a personality trait, is a fearlessness.
Say disorder.
Is it
was one of my personality disorders.
One of the disorders that I have is I don't give a shit. No, it actually could cross over into a disorder by not giving a shit, right? I have that fearlessness kind of thing in me that I'll just do it. I don't care. And even when I was growing up, my sister was always, there's a picture of us on a roller coaster or on one of those Ferris wheels.
Merry-go-round? No, Ferris wheel.
It goes this way. It goes up and down.
Merry-go-round?
Merry-go-round.
Ferris wheel.
Okay. So I'm on the Ferris wheel and she's like clinging on it and she's looking over and I'm like this, whee, I have my arms up And she would always get me to do her bidding. How come you won't
go on the slingshot with me?
Because that's a fair ride, Doug. Same as I don't eat fair food.
There's one in Orlando that's
I don't trust people, because half the people there aren't firing on all cylinders while they're doing the ride.
They don't need to fire on cylinders.
Let me tell you something. If the rides don't get you, the people operating the rides will. Take a note, guys, okay? These dangerous people at the fair.
It's not a fair. It's built in. It's bolted to the ground in Orlando.
Because I only trust things that are like
it's been there
proven, like I want to go to Slingshot on a country road.
It's
like,
not
what
a
are
country
you
road. It's
about?
Orlando. It's people do it all the time. They go.
I'm just going to stop on the. So you're asking me? I'm going to stop on the side of the road and go in a contraption that farm guy Bill had.
It's not farm guy Bill. Okay?
And he goes, "Hey, get in there. I'm going to shoot you up in the air. 100 feet."
I don't know. Look, a couple hundred.
Just get in there. No, I don't think so. No. Anyway, this Enneagram test. Where was I with this fearlessness? Right. This just. But you know what? How many part of the population do you think has that? This much of the world. So I forget sometimes. That's what makes me a really good coach, is like I have that belief, I have that fearlessness, except for that rickety ass ride that you want me to get on. Okay. But the majority of the world doesn't. So I have to remember that, right? People that have a low level base fear are probably really triggered up right now.
Yeah.
Like the woman on the tennis court was triggered up beyond.
Yes. And what happens is when you're in that state of fear, once it starts, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You start feeding it because now your RAS starts activating, right? So now your reticular activator system starts going. So now confirmation bias will now prove that everything that you were afraid of in the first place is accurate. So all the numbers that are coming out, all of the things that maybe you could be afraid of, or someone said maybe you should be afraid of, they'll go, oh, see, that just happened. I heard that, Sally's cousin's twice removed uncle who had a dog that walked across the street knows someone who died of COVID.
Do you think people are still doing this right now? Do you think people are still afraid of this right now, or has that passed?
Some are. I've spoken to a few, which is weird. However, I will say a lot more are starting to come around and go, whoa, wait a minute. I'm willing to question some numbers here. I'm willing, like, as an example, just today, I think it was today that came out. I don't know if you heard this. We're going to, here we are in Florida. Quest Diagnostics released 75,000 COVID tests yesterday, dating back to April. Well,
I don't understand what you're talking about.
They released 75,000 tests that went back to April. They didn't every week say, here's the weekly average, here's how many tests. They just released 75,000 at one time.
Gotcha.
Which then our numbers were like 3,700 cases, not deaths, by the way, just cases, which is even questionable. But then it was all released at one time, so it spiked up. It looks like 7,000 cases came out. So we're like, 77,000 cases in Florida.
Whose voice is that? Is his name Harold?
That's scared.
I feel like he's like...
That's
what's his name?
The male Karen.
Oh, okay.
I guess. I don't
Kip?
know. Kip.
Well, we just made that
one up. There's 7,000 cases. It just happened this month.
That sounds like a Keith.
It's like a Keith. Yeah. And then you go, oh, that's it. Oh, yeah, we got to lock it down again. That's it, right? And then that's where then the kids, everybody else starts freaking out. I get it. It's learning, but it irritates me when, Ellie puts the mask on her dolls. Like I understand why she's doing it and all that, but I'm like, man, she's so scared. Her doll needs to have a mask.
No, not your filter, honey. She's not scared that her doll has the filter.
It's a fashion accessory.
No, it's not a fashion accessory either. Because of how we teach her that we are caring for her. Okay.
So that's how she cares.
That's how she cares.
Well,
and so she makes sure she puts just the way she puts, special clothes on her doll. She cares for her doll. She brushes their hair. She puts the mask on. And you have a thing because you think the masks are ridiculous. All right.
I think we should have the choice. That's
right. But so we're a little different in that way where I don't care that much about it. Like there are some things in my life that I care significantly about where I'll fight for that. I'll be like, and you know that I will. And sometimes I'll fight about benign stuff that you're like, are you kidding me right now? Like somebody eating popcorn in a movie theater behind me where they're disrupting my entire movie, and I will give them the death stare and almost like, want to kill them. And you're like, you're ridiculous. Why are you doing that right now?
You ridiculous.
No, but you feel it inside. I don't blame you. So, but this represents so much more to you because you're such an individualist and just, it's about, any kind of control. So I get it.
But it's also, it's not healthy for people. Like, just that level of fear and anxiety isn't healthy. And you get addicted to all the cortisol and all the adrenaline and all the, the comments and making this about, your life about making comments about what people do or don't do.
Yeah.
And the only energy I like to think I do my best to is just the energy. I'm like, look, take a stand to own your choice, your ability to grow your life, the ability, and don't be, buying into every little thing that's going to freak you out because it's not going to serve you.
You're right, honey. And I think one of the really important things is like, just as in relationships, being always that being my perspective. And I mean, you're with a couple here that we're so much alike and we have so many thoughts, and that's why I married. One of the reasons I married him, I'm like, yeah, finally somebody who gets it. You know what I mean? Like how egocentric of me. Oh, that too, baby. Sure. But there's just things that we aren't as passionate about, right? That we're not aligned in some of these different areas, and politics is one of yours. And I could care less about. I'd like, honest to goodness, I'm one of those people. Like the less I know, and that upsets a lot of people who care passionately. But we together support each other's different perspectives, and I don't shut it down. I listen, or he listens to me, and that's important right now, especially during a fear time or a conflict time, to allow each other to be heard or have these differing perspectives. And we don't always have to be on the same page. And that's what's scary. Like what you're saying, it's proving that point. It starts here in the home, but then it trickles out into society where you go into a Walmart and somebody doesn't line up with what you're doing. And it's a war in a Walmart, and you're just trying to buy that stupid rotisserie chicken. You know what I mean? It's like,
right. Like,
what do you care?
There's a difference between like allowing people and just doing their thing and then freaking out, like getting upset when you see someone wearing a mask while they're driving.
Well, I do get a little upset about that, but I don't let it get the best of me, because I just feel like, what is happening?
But that's like, okay, yeah. But there's
they forgot they're wearing.
How could you forget?
I don't know. I really.
But point being is sometimes you're like, oh, take a picture of it and like, shame.
Yeah, look at this asshole wearing a mask.
That's going like, look, if that person wants to do that, that's what I tell Ellie. She'll ask like, why are we wearing masks, or do we have to wear a mask and all this? And I was like, Ellie, we're doing it because it helps other people feel better. It's the kind thing to do right now. You're safe. You're fine. Don't worry. We're just right now doing something like this because there are people right now who are really nervous, and this helps them feel better. Because I don't want her like feeling like taking off the mask, like, what just happened? Like I just,
No, I told her today when she was talking about wearing a mask and school, and when they go back to school, and I said, honey, you wear a mask because it actually protects other people from you coughing on them or sneezing on them.
But they're not
going to
have to wear a mask at school, you said.
They are going to have to. Watch it live. Watch it unfold. Get your popcorn. Just kidding. They are going to have to wear masks.
You said that Miss Taylor was that they were sitting. I'm sorry.
How did her teacher?
Sorry. Miss Esmeralda was
no,
the teachers were like, it was going to be.
I was misinformed.
I have to rethink this.
Actually, no, Douglas, because life is about trade-offs sometimes. And I'm going to tell you, from my perspective, I will trade her being able to be present, interactive, positioned in school, being able to learn, be able to see and touch and feel her friends and the exercises that she's doing, and have her wear that. I will be more than happy to. I think that what we forget is sometimes we want everything to be our way all the time.
No, I don't.
Life is about sacrifices. Sometimes you have to
sacrifice. It's like trauma. It's like going into.
How is that a trauma?
putting all of these kids and basically having these mandates, these rules, these like, fear-based, everyone, like you can't hear crap, you can't breathe. It's not, studies are showing that it actually is not as healthy as you think, that it's actually worse. So she's basically rebreathing all of her germs in the first place. There's like that mindset of talk about, they're taking school to a whole other level. We sent her to a Montessori school because we wanted her to not have that like schooling, direct, okay, automaton, whatever, you know what I'm talking about, making little robots. And we wanted a free thinking, yet here the complete opposite is,
Yeah, I hear that perspective, and that is definitely.
I'm going to start a new movement then, like no mask, because not one child has died, and like almost no children have actually gotten corona.
Well, honey, so I hear that perspective, and you're passionate about it.
Even I can't believe it. Like it's beyond me as a conversation, and I thought that I'm going to go find out. There's a couple of groups that look like they were able to create a new mandate.
Now, do you
get out and vote?
Listen, do you
local
see how,
government?
Okay, do you see how as a couple right now? All right, we're in this situation where my husband is very passionate about this and has intense feelings about it. And it's not my job to talk him out of his feelings. It's not my job to say that's a wrong feeling.
It's my job to talk you into mine.
Good luck. Right? Because we both have different perspectives.
Look, if you were right, I'd agree with you.
Right. If you were right, it'd be obvious. But it's to support him and say, man, that's going to be hard. If we do send her back to school, it's going to be really hard for you. You're going to have to deal with those feelings that come up for you and be supportive of everybody's feelings around this. My perspective on it is. I'm
not sure it's the healthiest thing for Ellie.
I get it. My perspective is that I think that some things in life, just from where I sit, require a sacrifice. If you want to grow financially, you sacrifice time or energy. If you want to grow physically, you sacrifice money.
Are we sacrificing her mental wellness for?
I'd rather. I think she can breathe in it. I don't think that's going to be really an issue. I don't. If I felt like her health was really an issue, she couldn't breathe. I think it's more of like
I meant the indoctrination.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'd rather her have the interaction socially and emotionally than that matters more to me. So it's a trade-off from my perspective, right? And that's not a right perspective. That's not saying, my perspective is the way. That's enlightened perspective. So, yeah, or his is an enlightened perspective. It's just we're all having our feelings about things.
Yeah, well, I'm going to want some clarity from them to go, what is the criteria to remove those masks? And I want to hear that is a 100% priority to make that a possibility, because
I'm sure eventually we're all going to go back to removing them.
We have a case study. She did gymnastics for the entire summer. No mask, no incidents.
Yeah.
So I'd like to, where's someone doing the studies on that?
I think schools are a little different because there's so many.
Because they're idiots.
Tell us how you feel, Douglas, about the
bureaucracy,
this bureaucracy, the school system.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, differing perspectives. What's going on in your house? Same kind of debates, I bet, especially if you have little kids right now and you're dealing with this school system, sitch. But let us know. We're going to come on here every Wednesday. We're not going to be talking about COVID in schools every Wednesday at 4:30. But today we're just where we're at today and what's happening and what's going on.
The purpose is really
Can we
just
come back to what we were seeing instead of this.
I'm just trying to make sure it's getting out there.
Thank you so much.
The purpose is just kind of to create a space for us all because we're all dealing with this at the same time. And it's not that it's about COVID necessarily. It's just kind of the state of the union.
It's about real life. Yeah. It's about being authentic and coming out and expressing your opinion. And I think, I think what you're doing, what you're leading by example, which I think is really cool, is that it's you don't have to have a popular opinion to share your opinions. You don't have to have everybody else's belief to share your beliefs. And I think what's happening in the world today is a lot of people are feeling this self-imposed censorship on top of the actual censorship that is happening, where it's like, oh, what's the reaction going to be from people if I talk about how I feel? Are people going to be turned off? Am I going to lose friends? Well, I'm one of those people that I don't care naturally about that kind of stuff. I just say what I need to say anyway. I just always been rooted that way, but most of the world is not. And I think that you're leading by example and saying, I'm just willing to share my perspective.
Yeah,
and I don't really care.
I don't want to hurt anybody.
Right.
I would never intentionally.
It's not malicious.
Yeah, but unfortunately, here's the deal. I would never, in this environment, case in point, I would never.
Oh, I got a client. I got to wrap it up.
You need the office?
Yeah.
So leave it at this. I would never defriend anybody here on social media or anywhere because of differing opinions. And it saddens me when I see people post things like, if you don't agree with me, if you feel differently than I do, or you feel pro whatever, if you're if you're not anti-mask, I'm going to defriend you because you're bad. We're creating more division that way by creating bubbles in which to support each other and not see each other and have a conversation about other perspectives, because we're not going to grow. We'll actually stagnate even more. And that's what's happening by creating all of this.
I'm going to let you keep talking.
Oh, no.
No, my office is set up out here in the loft. I'm going to go.
Okay.
I want to go be with her.
All right.
I love you guys. He's on a roll, baby.
All right. And another thing. Okay, let me get all ready. I'll just tell you what. All right. Now, let me see. What am I going to talk about next? No, seriously. Just please, if you're still here, if you're getting different bits of feedback about your perspective, about your position, it's healthy to have a differing opinion. This is how things are created. New things are created from the strife, from the pressure, from the friction. Fire does not ignite without friction. Now, I'm not suggesting that I'm approving of dangerous things or, going nuts, but it's okay to have differing opinions. When it gets too far, when people start hurting each other, when people start using language that's derogatory, when people start making people wrong for a differing opinion, is very different than going, you know what, I get where you're coming from, but I have a different perspective. Let's meet somewhere in the middle. And here's my only question to anybody who has any opinion like this. Let's just look at it this way. And I'll leave you with this thought. If we took the two extremes right now of what's going on, whether it be mask, anti-mask, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, whatever that is, because everything boils down to right now what's going on with the responses to these challenges. If you were to just take 50% off of each and looked at what the middle is between those two, would you be okay with that? Think about it. What would that look like? What would that sound like? What would an actual compromise be based on the extreme of either side? If we were to take the middle road of that, what would that look like? What would that sound like? What would that mean? What impact would that have? And it's interesting. I think about that, and it's so contextual, right? That how would you, how would you quantify it? And I don't know. That's like saying if so-and-so, if this happened to so-and-so, it would happen this way. There's no way to actually know, right? So I understand this is completely hypothetical in conversation. But what's happening is that we are so engrossed in the fear of what people are going to say, how are people going to respond, that they're not even willing to have the conversation, or they're so willing to have the conversation that they're bold enough to say, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong, and I'm going to now do something about it. And then when people here's where the fear boils into. All the riots and all the, peaceful protesting is great. It's awesome. We need it. It's part of society. It's absolutely, I support it 100%, even if it's something I don't agree with. I'm totally cool with that. Peacefully protest, speak your mind. Create an environment to have a conversation. But when we get filled with fear, right? Fear folds in out of itself into anger. And then from that anger, that's when all these crazy things start happening. That's when we start saying things, we start doing things. And, you know, it kind of feels like just everything right now, and then I'll wrap this up because it's we wanted to have this to be the Doug and Heidi conversation. It feels still like, have you ever been to, I was having a friend talk with a friend of mine the other day, and I've said this a couple of times to some people, is have you ever been to, I remember when I was 16, 17 years old, you know, and we shouldn't be drinking, we shouldn't be partying really, but that's kind of the rite of passage. And a fight broke out. Yeah, that the party is so nuts. It's just, you could just tell it's going to be one of those nights and everything goes out of control. Fights are breaking out. People are arguing with each other. Maybe there's a car accident. Maybe someone gets arrested. Just things go flying out of control. And like you're, as a participant, maybe you're in it and you're watching it going, holy crap, things are going out of control. Or you get sucked into it. And I played both. Growing up, I did both. But then, like the next day, you look back and you go, wow, that was messed up. Man, like how did I lose control? You know, well, maybe I was drinking, maybe I was doing whatever, but it's not even just the drugs. And all the dopamine, all of the GABA, all the neurotransmitters, all the adrenaline, and the cortisol and all of that is flowing through our body. We're getting addicted to it. That's why you could see these things going on and on and on, because the way this was a slow burn to get us here. Think about it. It didn't just happen. Think if you look at, 9/11, it was like, boom, something crazy happened. No one had time to think. They're like, whoa, what the hell? Right? And everybody came together. They supported, they did what they could. They showed up and they were able to do something about it. And then fear started to kick in afterwards, right? And there were some residual experiences and decisions we made and decisions the government made about what they were going to do to keep us safe. And you could go down any course of argument and conversation around what was done and whether that was appropriate or justified or what have you. But what was different with this is that it was a slow burn. This wasn't a hot flash. This was a slow burn where people started to get dragged into it. Confusion, fear, action, confusion, fear. And it just kept dragging out. And then when things started to maybe reel back, then fire would get thrown on it, because now we need to have that energy. Now we're getting used to this cortisol. Now we're getting used to this adrenaline. We're getting used to this fear. And now people are doubling down on the stuff that's keeping the fear in there, because the truth is there's another level of fear. What are we going to do without all of this? Man, could you think about this? Like doubling down on either, I'm not picking sides right now, on either side of a conversation. Can you imagine if one side finds out empirically that they were wrong, really wrong, and results prove it? That's like, you're hanging out with your best friend and they say, they break up with their wife or their girlfriend, and then you start talking crap about them, and then they get back together and you're like, oh my gosh, can't believe I said that. Right? So it's the same thing. People are afraid to go, oh, wow, maybe I was wrong. Maybe that was the right course of action. Maybe that wasn't the right course of action. Maybe now's the time to get off the high horse. Stop doubling down on others. Start doubling down on yourself. Start doubling down on yourself. What can you do? What do you stand for? Don't worry about other people. How are you going to make a difference, a positive difference, without tearing people down, without making people wrong? I don't make people wrong. I understand where they're at. I would like the same freedom to make a decision. What if you did that for yourself? What if you actually took a step back and said, is this serving me to serve others? Because if we all can agree we want peace, we want health, we want prosperity, in order to do that, we've got to take a step back and go, what is my role? What's my role in it? What can I actually do to make a positive impact? If you think about the Mother Teresa, she said, I will never be anti-war, but I will be pro-peace. Now think about that for a minute. What are we doing? Let's just use COVID as an example. Are we pro-health? Is the government or health people, like, doctors, do you hear enough people going, you know what, you should be pro-health? Like, take care of yourself. Get outside. Get some exercise. Drink lots of great water. Eat healthy food. You hearing a lot of that? No, it's the contrary. Most of the conversation is stay inside, don't go out. If you're going to go to the gym, exercise in an unhealthy fashion by continuing to wear a mask. Don't go to church. Don't go to all this. So I guess the only bit of exercise you could get is if you go out and riot. Then that's okay. And I know it's an extreme, and that's I'm saying it to be relatively inflammatory and pun intended. But my point is that if we were starting to think, instead of people wearing masks, it said, fight COVID, the war on COVID. What if it was, man, I'm going to celebrate my body that God gave me. I'm going to treat it amazingly. I'm going to give it everything it needs so that it can do its job and get me through this. Because now we're here and it's all about co-occurring. People who are diabetes, who are overweight, all of this are major contributing factors. If that's true, why aren't we talking about that? Why isn't that more important? And I believe it is true. I believe any clear-thinking individual would go, you know what? Man, if you had diabetes, if you were overweight, if you had pre-existing conditions, yeah, that makes sense. Right? Because all my friends who are freaking out still, who are logically thinking, they're like, well, I'm taking care of my mom who's older, or my wife's got this, or they've got these autoimmune differences. Well, then do the right thing. I wouldn't go out if I were you, or I would take extra precautions. But are you suggesting that because your mother, if my mom, if I was like immunocompromised, I wouldn't be asking you to not do life. I wouldn't ask you to shut down your business. I wouldn't ask you to do anything. I'm like, I'm going to take personal responsibility. I'm going to do what I got to do, understanding that other people can do what they got to do. And I take that seriously, and I take my life responsibly. And I would expect someone else to do the same and give you the space and the opportunity to do the same. Soapbox over. So what do you think? Thanks, Scotty. Gosh, good stuff. Thank you. Doug's on fire. Thanks, Todd. Wendy, love you. Yes, awesome. Erica, I hope you're talking about Truth on, if I recall when that came out, is about the rides. But anyway, with that being said, I love you for who you are and who you aren't. Stick around for next Wednesday, where Heidi and I will talk about something else. So if there's something you want us to chat about, come on board. Let's figure out a way we can get you to be a performer with us, share your light. Next time we'll have Heidi will have her own microphone, so it'll sound even more gooder. I was the bestest. Thanks, Tim. You rock, brother. How you been? Let's catch up. I see you crushing it out there. You're a real estate rock star. And we will see you soon. God bless. Take care of yourself so you can take care of others. See you soon.